Welcome in. This is Liz Grace, and this is Galactic Mythology. Today we're going to talk about Saturn in Aquarius and how this natal signature primes one to be an outsider, or dare I say it, a rebel. And I also have some perspectives on the Cancer and Capricorn axis, along with some tasty Saturn esoterica, with the intention of deepening your understanding of all that is occult and all that is astrological. Lately, Saturn has been knocking on the door of my thoughts, urging me to share its story. Specifically, Saturn in Aquarius. Perhaps because it's my natal Saturn, or perhaps it's because Pluto on January 20th, which today is January 19th, so tomorrow, Pluto enters Aquarius, symbolically encouraging the radical notion of the Aquarius age. Whatever the reasons may be, Saturn and the archetype of Aquarius have certainly been on my mind. So I want to start my Saturn talk by stating that Saturn is a boundary keeper. Speaking scientifically, once we break the bounds of Saturn, we are confronted by the outer planets, such as Uranus, Neptune, and the enigmatic Pluto. Scientific classifications debate Pluto's planetary status, and some practices of astrology debate Pluto's astrological relevance. Moreover, the relevance of the other outer planets, Uranus and Neptune. The point is, for this human experience, Saturn remains the bedrock, and it is intrinsically in tune with natural law. Saturn is a keeper of Earth's modern and ancient life. In the words of Stephen Arroyo, in his book Astrology, Karma, and Transformation, he states, Saturn is the principle of form, structure, and stability. Hence, it is related to law, cultural, and social traditions, the father in all authority figures. In one's natal chart, Saturn can be seen as their truest and most fundamental form, the skeleton upon which the flesh sits. Saturn crystallizes all that it touches. The sign and the house that Saturn resides in is a symbol for the bones of one's life, the blueprint or natural truth that one is disposed to grow from. This Saturnian blueprint is hardwired into your system and deeply integrated within your being. It is the structure that grants you the ability to be a light being in a physical body. In esoterica, Saturn, along with the moon, are seen as anchors to the earth. Both of these cosmic bodies gift us ancestors, culture, and creature comforts. Saturn is traditionally linked to Capricorn, and the moon is traditionally linked to Cancer. Speaking through this just now has given me, and hopefully you, a deeper understanding of the Cancer and Capricorn axis. This axis has a lot to do with a universal obligation, a spiritual obligation that you agreed to by choosing to incarnate onto this planet and into this fleshy body. That obligation being, though not limited to, an obligation to spiritually develop and learn in accordance to the limitations and boundaries of this earth plane. And doing so through the physical Saturnian form known as the human body. The higher wisdom of Capricorn is the protector of our physical reality. The seago emerged from the deep waters of Gaia to encourage the development of the physical by placing us closer to the sun, and to effectively distance our consciousness from the lunar influence. The ocean and the moon are connected, scientifically and spiritually. The seago represents consciousness breaking away from the lunacy, the lunar mother goddess ways of being. On the zodiac wheel, we see Cancer as the opposite to Capricorn, perhaps echoing this notion of the separation of man from ocean. The birthing of the baby from out of the darkness of the womb, the waking of the astral body into the physical, etheric form. In classical astrology, Saturn not only rules Capricorn, but it also rules Aquarius. Outrageous, out of bounds, and outcasted Aquarius. Which brings me back to myself and my whole toilings and ponderings. I've been chewing on the reality of my Saturn placement, and I confront that my fundamental structure is standing outside of the conventional pack, despite my secret yearnings for belonging. Now, if we can talk briefly about the energetic presence of Aquarius through Greek mythology, we experience the energy of Aquarius through a male-bodied being named Ganymede, the mortal prince of Troy. Zeus, desiring Ganymede's presence on Mount Olympus, seized the opportunity to have Ganymede as the royal cupbearer when the role became vacant. Hera, Zeus's wife, insisted on a male figure for the position to avoid potential illegitimate offspring, and Ganymede, he fit the bill. In realizing this, Zeus transformed into an eagle and flew off to abduct Ganymede. Elevated to immortality, Ganymede's eternal duty was to fill the cups of the gods with exquisite wines and waters, along with ensuring their satisfaction of the finest ambrosia. However, despite the job's promises, Ganymede's time on Mount Olympus was limited. Hera, growing suspicious of Zeus's close bond with Ganymede, sensed a more than platonic connection between them. Zeus and the Trojan prince had indeed formed a deep connection. This fueled Hera's anger. To pacify her, Zeus requested Ganymede's retirement, and as a farewell gesture, turned him into a constellation, the constellation Aquarius. Interestingly enough, Aquarius stands out as the dullest and most challenging constellation to observe, perhaps deliberately dimmed to conceal Ganymede from Hera's watchful eye. Ganymede had an exceptional magnetism to him. He was a mortal that had such extreme beauty that the king of the gods, Zeus, could not resist the attraction. I enjoy looking at Ganymede's beauty as a metaphor for his higher state of being, as in his beauty was fueled by his ascended state. We can view Ganymede as a mortal being born who studied and practiced the ways of the universe, Saturn. Ganymede, in points of his story, embodies page energy, which from the tarot typically represents a youthful and energetic figure, often associated with the qualities of a messenger or a student. Ganymede respected the natural laws of his physical, emotional, and mental being, and was able to transcend them into the outer planets. Aquarius classically is ruled by Saturn because once someone understands the mechanics and rules of the game, a funny thing happens where you, as the humble participant, become the star. Saturn also represents a boundary, such as in our solar system, suggesting that there is something on the other side of that wall. With Aquarius in mind and the radically beautiful Ganymede, we are reminded that with great beauty is great responsibility. Furthermore, when we take on the page archetype and do our studious work of self and spiritual development, we energize ourselves to the field. Our path is unique, but the field of spirit is one. And that field stretches far beyond the reaches of Saturn and its gravitational pull. Energizing ourselves through self and spiritual development creates a magnetic field beyond our own perceived boundaries. Synchronicity, support, and cosmic abundance pours into our lives. Attuning to unconditional love, we radiate a beauty that extends beyond the physical, echoing the true magnetism of Ganymede's being. Aquarius in astrology can be known as the outcast. Ganymede, in his final form, is beyond the mortal world and beyond the gods. He is a bit mercurial in the sense that Ganymede can bridge various worlds, existing both within the mortal world and the world of the gods, and yet fundamentally existing without either of them. Some astrologers view Uranus as the higher octave of Mercury, and I would say that the mythology has words to support that notion, also acknowledging that contemporary practices of astrology claim Uranus as the ruler of Aquarius. Bringing it back to myself and my outcast motif, certainly when I reflect upon my life thus far, I see that I have a pattern of beating my own drum, despite my desires to belong. I find that I create my own place amongst the crowd, And I do this to cope with feelings of not fitting in, or rather my perceptions of rejection. Ganymede wasn't a reject, but he was certainly an outcast of the highest sense. He came from mortal roots and then transcended that status. Saturn in a natal chart shows us what we resist and where we tend to turn a blind eye. It's a place intended to develop and be tamed as we age. The typical human lifespan experiences about 2 full Saturn cycles, the first being around 29 years of age, and the second around 59, the third being 87. Having navigated through one Saturn return, I feel like I'm still plucking the fruits from that tree. I have been embracing the outcast, and I have been finding other outcasts along the way, fellow Saturn and Aquarian folk. We are buckling up for an exciting ride through the age of Aquarius. Anyone else feel that roller coaster in their tummy when they think about Pluto's ingress into Aquarius, which is tomorrow, January 20th, 2024? And are you excited for Pluto hanging out in that sign for the next just shy of 20 years? Woo! Collectively and subconsciously, we are all going to be getting a little bit more vibrant. All right, y'all. That's it for now. I'll catch you on the next one. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It's a dream to have these videos being shared out there on the internet, on all the social media platforms and whatnot. If you feel inspired, please share, because chances are others will be inspired as well. If you feel called to book a reading with me, you can do so via my website, www.galacticmythology.com. I'm wishing you all the best. So much love, peace. Lizz Grace, your fashion designing astrologer and lifelong weirdo. Bye!